But just before you go for the interview, there's a couple of very important things you need to do. The first thing is you need to know who the firm is, and you need to know something very specific about them. It's no use going for a job interview with a law firm and not knowing something about the law firm that nobody else knows or no one in the general domain knows. It's all too easy to go onto Law Careers, to look at the firm's website and see that they have an ethos and commitment towards enthusiasm and encouraging you to go off and expand your knowledge and all that kind of waffle. But if you know a specific deal or you know a specific case that law firm's been involved with, that's a very, very useful thing to have. If you know any of their marketing plans because you've read Marketing Weekly and there's been an interview with the business development manager from Clifford Chance or one of the other firms, it's very useful to know that and see what his plans are. So during that interview at some point you can have a go at trying to drop that in, just to show that you've gone to that extent to get into the firm. Years ago, I worked in Leicester as a solicitor, and there was a chap I knew from law school who got an interview, and he decided before the interview that he'd take an extremely unique approach, and he actually telephoned the firm the night before, asked to speak to the partner's secretary who was interviewing the following day, and asked the secretary what interests and hobbies the partner had. When he told me that, I thought it was slightly insane, because presumably the secretary would tell the partner, and then the partner would think, why is this guy stalking me? But actually what he found out was the partner played golf, because the secretary had obviously never been asked this and taken aback. She obviously said, oh, he plays golf. And the guy said, oh, thanks very much. Next day he goes for his interview, he gets into the conversation, plays golf, hint, hint. And then the partner has a chat, and they end up discussing golf, and he says, you know, I've got a handicap, I play at this club. And the guys go, I've just taken up golf, I'm really interested in getting in on it, and I'm thinking of joining this club, what do you think? And they spent a good 10 minutes at the end of the interview discussing golf. Now that was a particularly impressive way of getting into that law firm. I presume the secretary told the partner. In fact, I'd be 99% sure. If my secretary, I'd been interviewing someone, and my secretary had been phoned and told that, I'm damn sure she'd have come in and said, I've just had this bloke on the phone, he's asking me what interests you've got, isn't that strange? Because it's just not done. But that stood that guy out. If you go to that sort of length, that makes you stand out. Whereas if you just sit there and say, oh yes, I really like your ethos and commercialism, and I like the fact you offer us 3 seats and not 2, and all the rest of it doesn't make you stand out at all. Read the Law Society Gazette, read Legal Week, read The Lawyer, all of those things, because as you will find out after lunch, so much comes out of your legal knowledge that when you go for these training contract interviews, quite a lot of assessment is done whilst you're there, based on what you know about the law at the moment. It's not academic law. If you're students at the moment, when you get to the end of your LLB, you can set fire to your books, you can jump up and down, throw them out of a window, because chances are you'll very rarely see them again, because most of the law you deal with outside is practical. So first things first, make sure you read the journals. Next thing, make sure you read the newspaper, and read the Guardian or the Times, and read the Times law reports. Try and have a guess at which newspaper the guys who are interviewing will read. If you go to a big London law practice, chances are they'll read the Times, the Telegraph, or something along those lines. If you go to a medium-sized in the towns, it's possible you might find a Guardian reader. I don't think you get Daily Express or the Daily Mirror, but it's usually a different standard of newspaper according to where you're going, so that you're ready on that side of things. Do not practice interview questions the morning or day of your interview. And the reason for that is that when you go for the interview and get asked the question, the partner and the guy interviewing you can see in your eyes lighting up as you think, oh, I just practiced that, and then you come out with it and it sounds like you're regurgitating, as opposed to it being quite a fresh thing. Always make sure you are there 3/4 of an hour early and wait. Do not turn up to an interview giving yourself 10 minutes to spare, because you can guarantee something will happen. Each year I go to Huddersfield Uni and present these particular lectures of different sorts. And this year I turned up, I was 45 minutes early, got into the car park opposite the uni, and I got a puncture on the car. And I had to change the tyre there and there because I just couldn't move it. And I actually turned up 10 minutes late to start this interview practice sessions that we're doing today. And that just goes to show that would have been no excuse. If you go to a law firm for a training contract interview and turn up late, you've blown it. There's no point. In fact, you could just turn around and go home, because there's so many people going for these that it'd just be such a big black mark on your name, even if you had oil all over your hands like I did when I went to Huddersfield. In fact, I made damn sure I got oil all over my hands, just so you have been changing the tyre. Just don't bother, just phone them up and say, I'm awfully sorry I'm late, I know you're going to count against me. That's why you've got to be there so early, just because there's so many people that you're up against. If you do anything like that, you've blown it. I can't emphasise how important that is. Turning up late, you turn up late to a job interview. What's that saying when you have the next client meeting, when you're a trainee solicitor and you've got to drive 80 miles across the country? You know, that law firm's not going to trust you to get there on time. So make sure you turn up on time. Once you get into the law firm and they sit you in the reception, when you're actually there, watch the secretaries and see what they're doing. Particularly if you're not going for commercial practice, if you're going for high street firms. There's two types of high street firms. There's the nice high street firms, and there's the particularly horrible high street firms. And there's lots of the latter, because we deal with them as recruitment consultants, we have lots of experience. What you need to do as a trainee, or potential trainee with that firm, is get beyond the idea that this is your chance of a lifetime. You look at the firm as you're sat there, because some of them are there to thoroughly exploit you. If you watch the way the secretaries interact, it's often a very good indication of the type of firm. Because if the secretaries are relaxed and friendly and they're talking to each other and they speak to you in a friendly manner, chances are the partners are quite pleasant. If the secretaries are being vile to each other and ignoring each other or bouncing about and glaring at you when you turn up, chances are that's not particularly a pleasant firm. And the same applies. Who's going for chambers here? Anybody looking for the barrister route, or are you sort of
usually that way anyway?
Yeah, okay. Exactly the same applies, because the clerks are there. When you turn up to chambers, if you're interviewing for the pupillage side of things, then the clerks tend to be all in the first bit. And just watch them, because some of them are quite interesting, and they do give you a good idea as to what that chambers is like to work in. But then, if you get an interview for a pupillage, you need to grasp it with both hands, because they're very, very rare, and it's extremely hard to go down that route.